When the world gets weird and the bills get thick, you call on Clint and you feature Dick. One talks numbers, the other talks slick. Two dads, one mic, yeah, this could stick. Clint's crunching figures straight to the point. Dick's just here to laugh in the joint. It's the Clinterific Show, featuring Dick. Dick's quick with a joke, Clint's got the math. Together they'll balance your checkbook and your laugh. They'll talk finance, fun, and fatherly fails, with liquidity dreams and 401k tales. So grab your coffee, join us a ticket, the Clinterific Show, featuring Dick.
Hello, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving week for
Happy Thanksgiving.
Our fourth episode of the Clinterific Show, featuring Dick the Turkey.
Yeah. Don't do that. It's featuring Dick with a turkey.
Oh, featuring Dick with the turkey.
Yeah, don't Dick the turkey.
But I do find it anatomically correct that Dick is hanging out of the bottom side of the turkey. So
This one's a Tom,
okay.
not a hen.
So this week we have a good little docket of things to talk about, and the first thing,
exciting.
Yeah, the first thing that we're going to dive right on into is I know we've been talking over the last few weeks about investing and, being able to make sure that your finances are managed better, and especially, as both of us are getting into our advanced ages, that the question often comes up is, should I start a side hustle? So we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit and give some hopefully helpful tips and pointers on what that looks like. So how familiar are you, Mr. Dick, on what a side hustle even is? Because I know there's a lot of these buzzwords that go around the internet.
I don't know a lot about what that is. I just know that I shouldn't let my wife meet her.
Okay, well, I'm referring to a job or means of generating revenue on the side, not side piece or side chick. So
that's a little bit different. Julie, if you're watching, I do not have a side chick.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess like a side job. Okay, that makes sense. Like you've got your regular 9 to 5, 40-hour week job, and then you do something else on the side.
Exactly. So
that sounds awful.
So it can be, but it can also be something that gives you something called financial freedom. And
that does sound great.
Yeah. So the first thing to a side hustle is really just understanding what a side hustle is. So what a side hustle is in the simplest terms is basically a secondary source of income that you create for yourself that is outside of the scope of your regular job, which theoretically should be paying all, if not the vast majority of your bills.
That'd be nice.
So I know we talked about in the past of making sure that your income exceeds your expenses each month, each year, things like that. This is one of those where you can start using your spare time to make that equation better for yourself. So you have money that you can set aside to invest in real estate or stock portfolio, or just have money coming in from a secondary service. So you can move towards that ever rapidly approaching swear word called retirement.
Seriously.
Yeah. So, there's kind of a few different things that you can look at from a side hustle perspective. So if you're considering starting up a side hustle, you're looking at essentially two different veins of earnings, ways that you're able to generate and create revenue for yourself. So you can do it the ultra traditional way, which is basically to just go get a second job. The problem with getting a secondary job is it's very limiting on what kind of freedom that you have. You're basically just tying yourself to a second source of revenue that is directly tied to the amount of hours that you put in.
Like to the limited amount of free time you already have.
Exactly. And
it's not like finding a job in the first place was an easy task.
Right. And if you're starting a second job, you're having to sacrifice in other areas of your life. Whether that be your family, your kids, your friends, your main job. You can't do everything all the time always. So you're going to have to, adjust your schedule accordingly. And so I would definitely not recommend using a second W-2 job, which is essentially where you go to work and somebody pays you, whether it's by the hour or by a salary. Now, obviously, don't throw these ideas out if that's all you have available to you. If you need two jobs to make it work, make it work until you can figure out another way around it. But
like if you're working more than one part-time job.
Exactly. If that's what you got to do, you got to do. It's more important for you to be able to keep your bills paid and keep a roof over your head and your family's head and keep their bellies full of food and all that stuff than it is to get stuck in the I want to start my own business or whatever. Prioritize, use your best judgment. And if you're not sure, then find a mentor or ask us on here. We'd be happy to help you out and help you put together a plan to make better decisions financially and stuff like that. So
you can take financial advice from a man who wears a turkey on his head.
Well, all ideas will be signed off on by this guy. So you don't have to worry about it only coming from the guy with the turkey on his head.
There's no doubt that I'm sound of mind.
Yeah. But the first thing that you have to look at when considering your other option, which is starting your own business. Now, it doesn't even have to necessarily be a large scale big business where you have a ton of employees. This could literally just be something that you start for yourself and you're trying to make a little bit of extra income on the side. There is a lot of demand right now. I don't know if this is as big in your neck of the woods, Ricky. But the lawn mowing businesses and pressure washing, right now it's Thanksgiving, even hanging Christmas lights, you can make a ridiculous amount of money right now doing Christmas lights. I've
seen a lot of yard signs for companies putting up Christmas lights, which 10 years ago I've just
never even considered it. Yeah, but it's
maybe I live in too affluent of an area. You know what I mean?
I honestly I don't think that's necessarily it because the amount of money that these people are making off of it. We had 3 companies do a quote for us. I have gotten to a point in my life where I am not quite brave enough to just jump on a ladder and climb up on our 2-story house roof that is incredibly steep to brave putting up lights. So I was like, let's just see what we can get accomplished. And the first quote that we got. Now, our house is not enormous by any stretch of the imagination. It's about 2,500 square feet, and it's got a small second story, which is basically just used as our office. The first quote that we got was $2,500.
Ugh.
Which
That's a mortgage payment.
obviously that was the way higher of the options that we considered. And I'm being generous
Was it
with the
temporary
word.
lights?
Yeah. Well,
Okay. Or they do the soffit ones that you leave up all year long.
those were, I believe those were permanent lights. And that price,
Okay.
I believe, did include the soffit lights that stay up year round.
Yeah, those are really cool.
There's quite a few houses in this neighborhood that actually do have those.
I'd like those.
Yeah, which is a really cool concept, and obviously it eliminates the upkeep of having to take them down and put them up every year. Plus,
Not only that, is you have them for multiple different
Exactly.
holidays because you can just
Yep.
change the color.
Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, all that stuff. It's really
Yeah.
So there's definitely some aspect of it that is advantageous, but it's still one of those things that it was like, okay, $2,500. Like our
That's
consulting
like,
business
save
is
up.
doing better this year, but it's not doing better enough to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to drop $2,500 on having Christmas lights put up.
That's like a you save all year as like an early Christmas gift to yourself as a family.
Exactly. Yeah. Or for all of 3 years, because that's steep.
It is pretty steep.
Yeah. So there's things like that. There's, doing what we're doing, starting a podcast, creating digital media, and even just finding kind of a niche to fill. You can create significant amounts of value, just going and doing things that are considered valuable to other people.
It does seem like digital content creation is the big marketplace right now.
Which, and that's kind of an interesting point, because it is, but I'm kind of concerned. I don't know if you've seen any of these new AI podcasters that have been created with like Suno and not Suno, Sora and all this other stuff. I mean, it's not to a point where it's like, okay, yeah, people want to make or watch this fake stuff be created. But give it another year. If you look at how things have evolved since AI video generation came out, like it's night and day difference. I don't know if you ever saw that video of Will Smith eating spaghetti. Yes, that was hilarious.
It was simultaneously hilarious and Lovecraftian horror.
Yes, exactly. And that made it even more enjoyable to watch.
Like watching a retarded Cthulhu try and eat a meal.
Yeah.
Just like
it's enough to
what
give.
is
It's
this?
definitely some nightmare fuel for you.
Yeah, seriously.
Right.
But yes,
Which-
it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And laughable to think they're like, yes, AI is going to take all your jobs, and you look at this and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
No,
But that's
it's
the
not.
thing that's so interesting about that, because if you look at that compared to what it's capable of making now,
Oh yeah, it's night and day different.
it's been, I think, like 2.5 years since that Will Smith video came out. And if you watch something side by side with that now, it's like, okay, 2.5 years, we've had that much improvement. Things are getting real good real quick as far as the AI video generation and everything. So
It's getting real out there, man.
Right.
It's getting real.
right, but don't let that stop you from actually going out there and creating something real yourself.
I think there's always going to be a market for genuine conversation, though, because I mean,
Oh yeah,
there are plenty of examples of why that has been a what's the word I'm looking for, a safe model, a profitable model.
right.
So
Yeah.
you just as a species, I think, built around the need for and the enjoyment of communication. So, and
And
podcasting is just another form of
authenticity.
it.
Authenticity too.
Authenticity, yeah, authenticity. I
Yeah.
mean, where are you going to get an AI guy with a turkey on his head? It doesn't get any more
I mean,
authentic.
you could get it, but he wouldn't be nearly as
But the
authentic.
turkey would like it would like blend with his head. It would be part of his head, and it would
Yeah.
like shift and phase around and turn into a
Yeah.
fried one all of a sudden, a deep fried turkey, and then
Yeah.
back.
Yep.
Probably lay an egg out
Yeah.
of his
The
mouth.
continuity issues are definitely there for the AI video generation.
I might be able to lay an egg out of my mouth though.
I mean, we'll try to make that happen in the next video. That's our follow up to Thanksgiving. So yeah, so the reality is you don't have to go out there and reinvent the wheel. Just find something that basically creates two checkpoints for you. Whether you enjoy doing it, because that makes it a lot easier to do if you just enjoy doing it, or whether it's worth a lot of money to do. So you may hate putting up Christmas lights, but if it pays well enough, go put up Christmas lights. Just buy a really good disability insurance policy, and then go nuts. Worst that happens is you fall off the roof and you're a quadriplegic and you're a billionaire. Hashtag worth.
Only if I'm a billionaire.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a list of questions that you probably need to ask yourself as far as if that's something you're considering going into. So the obviously those two questions start with, is it, I want to find something that I either like doing or something that's going to pay me well. Check one. Okay.
Bonus if those are the same. Exactly.
Yeah. If it's a high value skill set and you love doing it, go crazy. Because I would be willing to bet you'd be surprised how fast you could replace a normal W-2 job with a side hustle income, just by doing something that you love. It may be shocking to you, honestly.
I'm ready to be shocked.
Yeah. So the next questions that kind of come in mind, when I'm thinking about, or if somebody was asking me for advice on, hey, I'm thinking about doing this as a business. What should I look at? What do I need to take into consideration? Things like that. The next point is, what is the cost of entry for the business venture that you're looking at going into? If you're going into, I'm going to keep going back to this example just because it's prevalent right now. If you're going to go do installation of Christmas lights during this Christmas season, I would say the cost of entry is going to be pretty low. Really all you have to have is some kind of ladder to be able to get up on the roof, and most small tool kits that you can buy at Walmart would probably have the majority of the tools that you would need to be able to hang Christmas lights. Maybe not perfectly, but you can fill in the gaps when you need to. And honestly, any money that you are out of pocket buying those is probably going to be recouped in the first job if you're doing it in the right areas and things like that.
You set your margins properly.
Exactly. Obviously, when you're doing something like digital content creation, most of the bigger YouTube channels that I've followed and seen, and TikTok and stuff like that, you can do pretty much all of it with your cell phone. Now you're going to start getting better results as your channel gets bigger with better equipment.
Right.
But still,
I think some of that authenticity though goes a long ways, and I think
It
people
does.
are willing to people are definitely willing to forgive low quality for the authenticity.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So that's kind of the, the thing that you just have to keep in mind when you're doing that is, okay, what is it going to cost me to get into this? The next thing is barriers to entry. So, for let's say you wanted to go be a handyman because you're pretty good with tools. You're pretty good at fixing things. You know your way around a workbench, all that stuff. Okay, so if you're considering doing that, well, the first barrier of entry, depending on your state, is something called a handyman's license. A lot of
That's a thing?
yeah, a lot of them require you to get a handyman license to basically say that you have the skill set and knowledge base to go into somebody's house and fix whatever they're looking to have fixed. Most of the time, it coincides with having the appropriate insurance, because what happens if you go into somebody's house and you're like, hey, I'm going to fix this wall for you, and you cut out a support beam that's a weight-bearing beam in somebody's house that you had no clue what you were doing, and you cause $100,000 of damage to somebody's house. Well, you're definitely going to have insurance for something like that. So,
Right.
so just things like that where you have to have a secondary license, or something like that, getting access to a platform, something like Uber or DoorDash. Those are things that a lot of people are doing right now. Well,
Yeah.
you got to have a car. You got to have a driver's license to be able to do that. Stuff like that. So those are all just kind of secondary items that are necessary to do the job. And you just have to keep those things in mind. Now, once you get those things in consideration, that's going to give you a pretty good idea about the potential profit of it. So if you're looking to make a certain amount of money, what are you going to profit off of this thing? Okay, well, profit is a pretty simple equation. Profit is revenue minus expenses. So revenue is any money that you earn doing it. Expenses are anything that's associated with the cost of doing that service. So as a DoorDash driver, the cost is the DoorDash fees. They have their fees for using their platform. You have your gas fees. You're paying for gas to fill up your car. You have a car that you have to pay for, so, take all those things into consideration. And if you have $1,000 of tip revenue from DoorDash every month, and your costs out of pocket with your car payment and your gas and all that stuff, and the DoorDash fees ends up to be $800, well, you're $200 ahead, so that's your profit. So if that's what you're looking to make, then that's great. So as long as you're ending up better off than where you started, you're definitely in the right direction. And something that a lot of people don't take into consideration is startup costs are not the same as regular expenses. So it may cost quite a bit of money. For example, you're going to have to go sign a loan for a car. Well, if you decide to just pay outright for the car, you put $5,000 down, then you got to make $5,000 before you've actually made a profit with that business at all. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing when you're doing a loan. A lot of people don't take this into consideration when you're doing something like that. But if you're financing the car, you have a loan that goes into your business for, let's say you pay $25,000 for the car. You owe that note every month, the payment for that $25,000, which also includes interest. So that's another expense that you're taking into consideration, because when you're paying the car, you're not just paying the $25,000, you're paying $25,000 plus whatever interest accrues that month. So your expenses can pile up real quick. So it's just kind of a balancing act of making sure that you're taking all that stuff into consideration and just not getting discouraged that you don't make a killing in the first month, because most businesses, and this is one of the things that there's always that old adage that correlation does not necessarily equal causation.
Yeah.
You may, like, if I believe it said that most businesses fail within the first year and a half or 2 years, something around that mark. And that may seem like a discouraging metric, but I would be willing to bet, and honestly, I don't have any hard statistics on it. This is kind of just a gut feeling on my part. I would be willing to bet that most of the time, that's because people didn't know what they were signing on for when they got into that business. And I would also be willing to bet that a significantly larger portion of businesses that do make it past that 2-year mark and hit the point of profitability are actually way more successful. So if you can get past that 2-year mark and you can do enough preparation work in advance before you start the business, you're going to be much better off as the business develops. So and the last thing that I would recommend keeping into consideration as far as side hustle goes is market saturation. If you can't turn down a street without seeing hey, we'll mow your lawn for $20. Here, call our number. Without seeing 10 signs that say that market's probably saturated.
Yeah.
So podcasts. Let's be real. Everybody has a podcast right now. Everybody has a TikTok account. Everybody has a YouTube account, and everybody's making podcasts. Now that doesn't mean that doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that it's something to take into consideration from a profit perspective. Because if it's the market is saturated, it's going to be a long time before you're going to make money if you ever do.
Right.
And you have to be okay with that.
Right. And if you can't put forth a model that gives something unique to that market, that's going to make it even tougher, right?
Exactly. You have to bring something that's called yes, exactly. That's the word. It's called a value proposition. So what are you doing that nobody else is doing?
Turkey on the head.
Exactly. Ricky gets it. Sorry, Dick gets it. Dick, he knows how it's hanging.
Dick knows.
Yep. Dick knows. Yes, exactly. Dick knows. So after you've decided on what you want your side hustle to be, the next step is probably setting some goals for yourself. What does this look like for me? What do I want it to be in 6 months, 2 years, 5 years? Is this just a means to an end? Are you going to install Christmas lights for 5 years just to set aside enough money to invest in something else? It just depends on what you're looking to do. But that's where you kind of have to sit down and say, okay, what are my goals here? Am I replacing my job? Is that what I want to do? If that's the case, what do I need to do that? How do I feasibly hit that metric? So, keep the things like that into consideration and then go from there. And it's always good when you're setting goals for yourself to create a contingency plan on what you're going to do if this goes nuts. If you're installing Christmas lights and it goes crazy, what happens when you have 6 weeks worth of work and it's 2 weeks before Christmas? What do you do?
Oof.
Then you're going to have to hire some help. Well,
yeah,
hiring help right now is a crapshoot. It's just, the workforce has changed significantly just from what I've seen personally since I was in high school. I remember being in high school and I was part of a school that had a work study program. So we went to school half a day and had to have a job the other half of the day.
Child labor. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The
So
children, they yearn for the mines.
yep. So I sorted cardboard boxes for a company that a lot of people have probably heard of, Little Debbie's. So they had a community outreach program where they provided this job for the high school students where I went, and so we had to sort the.
It's nice to give you a job that you could handle at your capacity.
Yeah, exactly. There was not a lot of. Listen, I did exactly what I wanted to do while I was sorting hundreds of boxes an hour. So they paid you 2 cents per box, but you could not use the same box more than 3 times. So when they shipped with those boxes, what they did was they would put a white label sticker on them. When they shipped them back to us, each time they would have another sticker on there. So when it had 3 stickers on it was when you tossed it. So if it had 2 stickers or less, then you got to keep it and reuse it. If it had more than that, then you had to toss it. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, it was funny. I remember when I started there, I was 15 years old, and I could sort. So obviously at that time, minimum wage was, I think, $5.15 an hour. So essentially, you had to sort. I think it was like two and a half carts and a handful over, which a cart was 100 boxes. So they had these carts that was what we used to put them on pallets to ship them back to the company. So it was like 2.5 carts to hit minimum wage. I was lucky if I did 2 carts an hour. So 200 boxes in an hour. I was ridiculously slow. And they basically told the manager down there, she basically told me that if I didn't get faster, I was not going to be able to keep working there. So they were going to train me with one of their faster sorters. So they put me with this guy and basically just said, okay, I want you to, watch what he does, sort how he sorts, and it'll help you go significantly faster. Well, it worked like a charm because after that, I became one of the fastest sorters they had. I don't know exactly what my ranking was, like if you ranked how fast anybody up there could go, but
S-class.
I know that one day they gave us so I don't know if you had a job when you were in school, but my school, all of your money went towards tuition directly. So I didn't get a paycheck. It just went towards tuition. Mm-hmm. I think we got 10% for tithe because this was obviously it was a Christian private school, like a boarding school. But so we got to keep our 10% tithe to give at church, but most people didn't do that. They had one Sunday, they had gotten really, really backed up. They had gotten like 27 trucks in a weekend, and we could usually make it through about 14 in a week. And they had like 27 or 28 that showed up on one Sunday. So they called us and said, anybody that comes in and works on Sunday gets paid cash at the end of the shift. So most, and I'll be completely honest. I was, between 15 and 17 years old when I was working this job. Anybody who's had a job when they're 15 to 17, you goof off, you cut up, you hang out with your friends. I sang NSYNC and Backstreet Boys at the top of my lungs to the entire warehouse that we were in. And that's just what we did. You goof off and have a good time. Well, they gave us that incentive for one day, and we ended up having what was it? Oh, I had a race with one of the guys that I was in school with. So he thought he could beat me with sorting, and I told him that there was no way he was going to beat me at sorting because he had never seen how fast I could sort. And I don't remember exactly how long. I think it was like 2.5 hours that they let us sort. So 2.5 hours goes by. What was it? Yeah, 2.5 hours, and I sorted an average of 28 carts per hour. So 2,800 boxes per hour.
What?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, exactly. So, needless to say, I'd gotten a lot faster than 200
crap.
boxes in an hour. But it was hilarious because one of the supervisors that just, they have a couple supervisors, obviously with, underage minors in there. They've got to make sure that, things are on the up and up. And
child slave labor, you mean?
Exactly. So they had to make sure that we were doing things the way that we were supposed to be doing it. And anyway, long story short, she walks by, and I mean, there's just boxes flying everywhere in my station, and she's like, "I've never seen you move that fast." And I was like, "Well, I know I can. I just most of the time I'm not really motivated to do so because." It's just going towards my school. But the thing is, I think they paid me like $158 in cash at the end of the day. So anyway,
man, which back then was.
You're gonna have to excuse me real quick.
Sick.
I have an interruption that I have to deal with. I will be right back.
Oh, let's play the whole music. Do 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 do
So I'm sure I'm gonna have to cut that out of.
Yeah.
Oh my!
Edit this out because I just hummed the Jeopardy theme the whole time.
Oh my goodness! I swear.
Was it Lincoln or Evie?
Yes, he's been in bed for an hour. Comes in here and breaks down the locked door.
Knock, knock, motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you gotta love having kids.
Do I have to love it?
Yes. You're
Okay,
supposed to.
Yes. Oh.
Anyway, so
And scene.
yeah.
Hang tight for a moment, don't fall out of your seat. Clint's doing numbers, Dick's going deep. Just a quick little breather before we repeat. We'll jump right back in with fun you definitely didn't ask for to keep.
And we're back. Anyway, sorting a lot of boxes, got way faster at it. I don't even remember why we were talking about that. Oh, workforce. Yeah. So everybody at my school, yeah, exactly. That was definitely a rabbit hole that I was not intending to go down. But yeah, no, like everybody at my school was required to have a job. And I even remember kids from the public school that I was friends with that had jobs. You know, it was just very normal.
Yeah.
Once you got to 14, hey, I want to have some money, so I'm gonna go get a job and save up for a car and save up for, the PlayStation 2 or. I'm dating myself, obviously.
There. Yeah,
yeah.
Data's right there.
Yeah,
Holy
exactly.
crap.
Yeah.
PlayStation 2.
Exactly. But But yeah, so it's just one of those things that
My back just started to hurt. Thanks.
yeah, yeah, but yeah. So it's just one of those things that you have to take into consideration. If you're going to have to hire somebody, you want to make sure that you hire somebody that's going to do the job, somebody that's going to keep your reputation in mind when they're working for you. That's not always easy to find. There's way too many incentives right now to not be working or be taking advantage of systems and things like that. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I am not one of those people who believes, for example, that working remote is the worst thing that could ever happen. I think if you're capable of managing your own time, then why should you not be able to work remote? There's a lot of.
I mean, yeah, that is a good point. Like I have the opportunity to work from home occasionally for my job, but I hate it because I'm stuck in this room.
Yeah.
Which right now is great because you and I are having a conversation with our dear viewer. And,
all of them, all one of them,
all three of them.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks. Yeah.
Anyway,
hi Ricky's. Hi Dick's mom.
So when I work from home, though, it's just me and I'm doing my work, and it's like this is not an environment that I have set up to work in. Like this is a relaxed place.
Yeah. And you don't want that to become your work area. You want it to be, your
I
place
have
of
it set up
zen.
so that I can. Yeah, I do. That's why I have my forced fur candle.
Exactly.
It's part of my zen.
Yeah. That's why I have the Sharpie. Now the podcast is going to get real fun.
Yeah, you're going to start seeing them elves.
Oh, that one's been dry for 10 years. I think. I don't know.
You got to refill.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I need a candle.
So yeah, I guess that brings us. Oh, I didn't realize that was a candle. I thought it was carpet.
Yeah.
It says fur.
Yes. I keep a jar of carpet just so I can sniff it.
Hey, to each their own.
Gotta love that new carpet smell.
Listen, Ricky, we listen and we don't judge.
I keep the jar of carpet because my wife got sick of me sniffing carpet glue.
Oh.
Compromise. That's what marriage is all about.
Go on.
That was it.
Oh, okay. All right. So speaking of flying high, that brings us to our next segment. This is our themed flop or not episode this week. So I was watching a movie. I watched Stardust. After we talked about it last week. Yeah, I was like, you know what? I have not watched Stardust in a long time, and I love that movie. And it was kind of funny because I was watching it again, and Charlie Cox plays the main character, Tristan Thorne, who is also gotten way, yeah, exactly, for playing Daredevil. And it was incredibly funny watching that again because if you watch the movie, you'll notice at the beginning he looks like a chubby little boy, and he's from how the movie is written, seems like he's in his late teens, early 20s. Yeah. But he just looks like a little, 15-year-old boy who's kind of starting to go into puberty, but hasn't hit all the milestones yet, and as the movie progresses, he starts to look like there's a point where he looks way older and more mature. And I was like, well, what in the world's going on there? And I actually found out that was intentionally done. It wasn't just his hair that they made longer. So they grew his hair out, but they also intentionally did the poorest lighting that they could on him for the first half of the movie.
Interesting.
They did his makeup poorly, and they made him wear loose, poorly fitted clothing. And then towards the end of the movie, they fixed all that. So it was basically just a, cinema trick of, lighting and makeup and clothing.
Yeah.
And it made him look 10 years older at the end of the movie. I thought that was incredibly interesting and a really cool cinematic trick.
Like some of those little details, those intentional details that they put into movies that you don't always consciously notice. That's one of the great things about that storytelling that I feel like gets lost in it, as much as some of them are in the cookie cutter like action CGI movies, like they don't have that same depth and value that movies like this or
Right.
So many others like the Lord of the Rings trilogy being to me the ultimate example of just the devil in the details. They put in all the work,
quality.
And you get too much. Well, we'll just put that. We'll fix that in CGI. We'll just CGI it. We'll just
exactly.
And it's like, could they have done? I mean, it's an interesting little detail. If you've seen the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, and here you got me on a LOTOR tangent now, Clint. But
hey, I'm all about
it.
We were diving into sci-fi, so this is a good segue.
So I'll give you a segue. They did.
I feel like that was a threat, but I kind of liked it. Can I ride this segue?
Yes, you can. So they try to do so much practically in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. For instance, like doing the height disparity between two actors that were actually similarly the same size,
right?
By doing what's called forced perspective, where when you see like particularly Gandalf and Frodo or Bilbo sitting at the same table, they're not sitting side by side like directly there.
Yes.
One is closer to the camera than the other, and it makes the one that's further away look smaller and the one that's closer to look bigger. And it's quite a thing. You think about like, for especially an old stage actor like Ian McKellen, who cut his teeth a lot earlier before a lot of this technology developed, and is used to interacting with the other person face to face, is now instead staring at a point and giving a performance.
Exactly.
And that's a little bit odd, but you know what? There was still another human being in the room at least. When they did the Hobbit trilogy, though, especially for some of the scenes with like all the dwarves and everything, especially in the in Bilbo's home in Bag End, it was just Ian McKellen in a green room, like a green screen room by himself.
Yeah, and it takes and it took away a lot from the second trilogy that they did, because I remember for me personally, I didn't really love the Hobbit trilogy like I did the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I feel like they tried too hard to make it a trilogy. I think it would have been better as two movies at the most.
Yeah.
2 movies.
Yeah, that was a weird time in movies where they tried to split everything into multiple parts, and it just like, oh yeah, it's obviously just a cash grab. And I think that just takes such a huge part away from the movies.
Right.
I mean, like the Harry Potter movies, the last one they did in 2 parts, when, and that's one of the very few that they did I'll be the first to admit both parts were very good of the Deathly Hallows.
I think I think there was enough content for it because, like, you look at
Right.
the volumes that J.K. Rowling wrote, and like the first one was, an average book length, and they
Yeah.
got progressively girthier
Oh yeah.
towards the end of the
Yep.
series.
Yep.
So yeah, them taking two
Yep.
movies to do the last, I got no problem with. Actually, I'm trying to think. Have I ever seen the? Have I seen the last movie? Yes, I think I have. I think I did sit down and watch all of them because I read all the books.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I read all the books when I was in high school and college, early college, and I took a long time to see all the movies though because it's like, eh, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
eh.
Well, and they were
I guess
so sprawled out. I mean, like they were
yeah.
incredibly well made. I don't think I saw any of the first 4 or 5 in theaters.
I didn't
And
see any
I
of them in
think
theaters.
I think I saw the last 3 or 4 because isn't there what is there 8 of them or 9 of them?
Well, with the seventh movie being split into two, there are eight
That's
total.
that's okay. So I feel like I probably saw the last 3 in theaters. But yeah, they were just, it was obviously kind of like the Game of Thrones, like, a decade spans in the time that from start to finish, and there's just so much information that it's just hard to really take in.
Yes, let's not get started on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, we'll have to dive into that whole.
'Cause, that was a huge floppity flop, a big, fat, flaccid flop.
Yes. Yeah.
As a fellow book lover,
Which
I know you love reading, just like I do.
yes. Yeah. I've actually started reading the series, and I also
Oh
stopped
yeah,
because I'm still pissed off
he's
at Mr. Martin for dicking around for the last 10 years and
he's
not
never
writing the
gonna
last
finish it.
book. Yeah.
No,
He
he's
got
never gonna
too
finish it.
he got too into the fame and all that other junk about um
There's actually this might still be up there. Let me check. There used to be a website called Finish the Book George. It was like a fan
oh,
made.
really?
Yes, it's still up. Yeah. Yes, it is. It's like a
Wow.
fan made like rant site that's got started many years ago. It's GRRR, goodness freaking sake. grrrm.livejournal.com. And I think it's just mainly two guys who just rant about the fact that he hasn't
Wow.
finished it.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Wow. Well, maybe we'll dive into the debacle that was Game of Thrones. And I'll see if I can put together some financial information about that, because I do think that would be interesting to see, which was an insane phenomenon as far as film and television merging goes. Because for a television series to have gone for the better part of a decade and to have the production value through at least 7 or 8 of the seasons that they did. They spent a lot of
Yeah.
money on the last season, but they also kind of mailed it in on the longest war scene of all time, because yeah, it was an hour and 45-minute war scene, and you couldn't see dick, literally and figuratively.
And that's the worst part.
Yeah, I mean, goodness, if you're gonna put all that money into making this stuff, at least make it to where it's visible,
Right?
you know.
Let it hang out there.
Yeah, you got to see that chode. So anyway, back to our flop or not trip to the stars edition. So the first movie that I've got on the docket today is probably a lesser known movie. It is the 1997 comedy that was released by, I believe it was actually by, yeah, it was Disney. Yep. Rocket Man.
Comedy? That was a comedy?
Yes. Not the Rocketeer. Because I know it's I got those mixed up quite a few times. So this is Rocket Man.
Wait, is that one of the Wayans brothers, right?
No, it has Harland Williams.
Oh, okay.
So Harland Williams, a lot of people probably have not seen this movie, and looking at the money that they brought in it's probably accurate that a lot of people haven't seen this movie.
So I'm gonna guess it's a flop.
No, they did not put a lot of money into it either.
So it's not.
But yeah, so Harland Williams is actually the police officer from the Dumb and Dumber movie that drinks the bottles of piss when he pulls over Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. So yeah, he does this movie, and just to kind of give you a little bit of a, have you seen this movie?
Rocket Man?
Yeah.
No, I have not seen Rocket Man.
So I will tell you that it is a gem. It is a very, very funny movie. The gist of the movie is that Harland Williams' character his name is Fred Randall.
Okay.
He has been dreaming of being an astronaut since he was 4 years old. He used to put himself in the dryer and pretend that it was a spaceship. So that's kind of the beginning of this film. So
I think I have seen parts of this when it was on TV. But
yes, it was on the Disney Channel a lot.
We weren't affluent enough to have Disney Channel.
I only had it some of my childhood because it was on channel 18, I think, and we only had channel 2 through 26 or something like that.
You were part of the cable proletariat, huh?
And so, but that was at a certain. I think I was around like 12 when we finally got the Disney Channel because they reordered all the channels, and it used to be up in like 31 or 32. So they reordered it, and I was like, oh, I get to watch the Disney Channel now. But then we lost Nickelodeon, so it was like, well, was it really worth it? Was it really worth it to give up, Rocko's Modern Life and Angry Beavers and the true classics? But this is one of the movies that made it a lot easier to get. You never watched Angry Beavers?
Not on Nickelodeon.
Oh my! Wow. Okay, so Angry Beavers is definitely.
I'm sorry.
No, yeah, no. It's one of those '90s shows, but so yeah. I'll dive into the Angry Beavers in a later episode. No pun intended.
Just leave it alone.
We're gonna let Dick go deep on Angry Beavers. But not too deep. Just the right amount of deep for how angry they are.
Never mess with Angry Beavers.
Exactly.
That is a lose-lose.
Yeah. So Rocket Man is about Fred Randall. He is a very gifted software programmer that works for NASA when he grows up, and he is one of 2 programmers that are capable of working with the software that they're putting on their computer to go on the first manned mission to Mars. And so the movie starts out with him going through the tests to prove that he's physically capable of, surviving a trip to Mars. And it's essentially a head-to-head competition with him and this other programmer, which that competition between them two is some of the funniest television that you could watch as a child in most television or in most movies that ever existed. He gets spoiler, he ends up being the one chosen to go to Mars, and they have a little chimpanzee that is also on the trip with them that has been trained how to use some of the machinery to go gather these rocks and things like that they're wanting to get for samples on Mars. Well, through a series of unfortunate events, they're supposed to be going into these hypersleep chambers immediately after takeoff, and he gets into a little bit of a kerfuffle with the monkey, and the monkey steals his sleep chamber. So he tries to go to sleep in the monkey's chamber, which is obviously the size of a 2-foot chimpanzee, and he falls asleep and wakes up like 14 minutes later. So the rest of the time is, he's awake for a 9-month trip to Mars.
Oh my God.
So he's surviving alone on the spaceship on the way to Mars and going insane while doing so because, he's in the isolation of space. And it is an incredibly funny movie. So many funny parts with him getting into it with the monkey, and the commander of the ship hates him, and it's just a very, very funny movie. And he also has the hots for the other astronaut. So, it's got a little bit of love, it's got a little bit of, conflict, and it's just it's a funny movie. It's one of those pretty formulaic Disney comedies from the 90s, which, in a lot of ways, I wish they would go back to those in some way, because they worked. Yeah. They were enjoyable movies. You don't have to rewrite the formula every time you do something to make it a movie worth watching. So this movie was released in October 10 of 1997. So we were 11 years old, which sorry, I was 11 years old. You were like 16.
23. Yeah.
No, you were only like what, 13? You're only like 2 years older than me, aren't you?
Yeah, I was like 13.
Yeah. Okay. So the budget for this movie, I was actually surprised, but considering some of the actors, Beau Bridges is in it. So Jeff Bridges' brother, he was in this.
Are they brothers?
I believe so.
Just because they have the same name, come on. Anyway,
yeah, it's his brother. Jeff Bridges is his brother.
You learn something new every day.
Yep.
That's wild.
Yep. It also has William Sadler. I would say probably the two movies that he's most well known for is The Shawshank Redemption and Die Hard 2. He's the blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy that is given.
Is that what he was? Is that he was billed as in the credits? Blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy.
No, I don't remember the name.
Very memorable
of his character in those movies. Haywood. It says his name was Haywood in Shawshank Redemption. Okay. I guarantee you'd recognize him if you saw a picture
Beau
of
Bridges?
him. No.
No, Sadler.
William Sadler. Yeah. So the budget of this movie was $16 million, which makes sense, but I feel like I thought it would have actually been higher thinking back on this movie. Now, it's been a while since I've watched it, but I would have thought it would have been a little bit higher than that. I would have thought it would have been closer to like 25 million, just based on the timing. But the late 90s was a really weird time for production value in movies, because they were making some real good stuff that was not necessarily that expensive, because they had just kind of figured out the formula for making stuff look really good. So, October 10, 1997. It's a Disney movie, and $16 million budget. Flop or not?
I would say it wasn't a flop.
So
just because the budget is so low.
Yeah, so I was actually kind of surprised, that I would be willing to bet that Disney actually made their money back. So box office, it actually ended up being pretty close to break even. They were at $15.4 million in the box office. So, $600,000 under their budget. But
so flop.
Yes, it was a flop in the movies. But
in the theaters.
Yes, but I would be willing to bet that they made significantly more off of that movie after it went into syndication.
Probably.
And was sold, because, especially from a perspective of being so close to your budget, I think it was one of those ones that even in the 90s, you just didn't necessarily have to go see it in the theater. You didn't lose any elements of how good the movie was not seeing it in the theater. It was just as funny in your VCR. Yes, yeah. I said VCR. As it was
video cassette recorder.
Yeah, exactly. So I was kind of surprised. I kind of thought it would have done a little bit better, but still. So the next, and this one actually is a bonus, because I decided to delve into a little bit more than just one movie.
Oh.
So,
I don't.
Are you much of a Star Wars fan?
When I was a kid, we had the original trilogy on video cassette. And
nice.
I would spend hours watching them. Loved it.
Yeah.
Was super excited when they announced they were doing a new trilogy for the prequel trilogy.
You mean the sequels?
The prequel trilogy.
Wait, so they've announced that they're doing more? Oh, sorry. Yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
We don't speak of episode 7, 8, 9.
Ain't that the truth? So that was part of why I put this on here.
Hot fucking garbage.
Yeah. I would assume that very few people that would be listening to this podcast would have been happy about the results of the sequel trilogy +2. So, what I did was I did a cost analysis of Disney's purchase of the Star Wars franchise.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So the question is, was it a flop for Disney to purchase Star Wars from Lucasfilm, which I don't know if you know how much they paid for it.
I don't. How much did they pay for it?
So, let's see.
And please tell me George is able to sit on a 50-foot yacht off the coast of Spain for the rest of his freaking life.
So, yes, comfortably. Disney bought Lucasfilm, so they actually bought the entire production company. See, I didn't realize that it was actually the whole studio that they purchased. I thought it was just the Star Wars studio, so I actually was surprised to find that out. So they own Indiana Jones as well as Star Wars, which is indicative of why Indiana Jones has kind of been for the last 13 years, give or take a few. So Disney bought
like episode long topic there.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. So I'm going to try to keep this as condensed as possible.
Yeah, okay, good.
Because there's a lot to unpack here. So
Mhm.
Disney bought Lucasfilm in 2012 for $4.05 billion. And as far as I know, George Lucas was the sole owner of Lucasfilm.
What? How?
I mean, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And, I mean, if you consider how much the original Star Wars films, so I'm talking about Star Wars A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, the real Star Wars movies, if you consider how much they changed film when they came out, I mean, they were just a phenomenon in the theater, in cinema, that people had no real way of grasping. So I can understand why it would have been worth so much, and I don't know why he would have given any part of that away, because he was largely in control of what was going on with the original 3 movies. And it jumped in value significantly more after the prequel trilogy.
Right.
Because the prequel trilogy kind of gave it that shove into, they're worth a lot of money, but this is really just kind of a niche market. Whereas, and I think it was because the prequel trilogy, not necessarily making better films. I really liked Revenge of the Sith. I thought it was an excellent movie. Attack of the Clones, it had some of the really cool lightsaber fights and stuff like that. Obviously Phantom Menace has one of the greatest lightsaber duels that will ever exist, with the Duel of the Fates with Qui-Gon Jinn, Darth Maul, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just a perfect soundtrack, a perfectly choreographed fight scene.
John Williams.
Yeah. I mean, John Williams has, he's made so many movies iconic because of the quality of his ability to make music and things like that. But I think it was more so that when they brought out the prequel trilogy, it also brought back to light the original trilogy. And I think they got released in theaters again. I don't know if you remember that. They did like the updated CGI and stuff like that towards the end of the 90s, and did like a re-release. Yeah, and I think they did really well the second time. And so it kind of brought that fandom into a completely secondary age group that had already kind of started getting towards probably what our age is now in the early 90s. And now their kids are into it. So it kind of just opened the door for it to be more of a generational thing, rather than just, this is just a niche group that really likes this, and then, not a lot of other people care.
Well, I mean, that had to be the plan. Like, why would they bother buying the IP if they weren't going to find a way to generate revenue from it?
Well,
that's how you generate revenue.
Yeah, but
from
Disney
it, right?
didn't make the prequel trilogy.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, you're not going to buy this IP and do nothing with it, right?
Oh, right, for sure. Yeah, and I don't blame them for doing what they did. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the costs of basically what has been created by Disney that's Star Wars centered since that purchase in 2012. Obviously, $4.5 billion is $4.05 billion. So I'm going to say $4 billion from this point, because it's just, I'm not diving into the $500 million or $50 million, whatever. So $4 billion is the starting point, plus production costs for the 5 major films that they have made since that purchase. So there's The Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi, Solo, and then The Rise of Skywalker, which, amazingly enough, it's been 6 years since Rise of Skywalker. I didn't realize it'd been that long, and I have not cared, if I'm being completely honest. And I mean, I loved the original Star Wars. I even really liked the prequel trilogy about, Anakin and all that stuff. But I am very surprised that they've had this IP for 6 years, which, I mean, they've turned a lot of their stuff into the Disney Plus production, with The Mandalorian and things like that. But the thing that's so weird is they've delved off into these. Yeah, they're talking about The Mandalorian and they have the they did the Obi-Wan story, which was taking place between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. When Luke and Leia are like 10 years old or something like that.
Right.
It had some really cool parts. Have you seen it?
The Kenobi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That I thought that was well made, and I thought it was one of the as far as all this stuff was concerned, I thought it was a well-made Disney adaptation of the Star Wars story.
It's a lot better than the sequel trilogy.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And the thing is, if I'm being completely honest, I thought
I would say that most of the TV show stuff has been better than the movies they put out, actually.
I would definitely agree with that, 100%. And I would say that these numbers probably agree with that too. But I will say, I thought The Force Awakens had potential.
Yeah, well, I remember when I watched it, was like, okay, like this is interesting. Like it's got some like potential here.
Exactly.
And then
Rian Johnson just shit all over it.
Yeah, they flipped over and squatted down on the bed, and Amber Heard is right there.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And it was I hate what happened with The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi, I tried to watch a second time, and it just infuriated me. It was so poorly, I hate subverting expectations for the sake of subverting expectations. Yeah. If it's part of the story to make it a good story, that's one thing. But just to be like, yeah, I don't care about any of the stuff that we set up in The Force Awakens. We're just going to throw it in the trash can and then immediately do the same thing in The Rise of Skywalker, and to pull the somehow the Emperor is alive. What?
See, like, I don't feel like it was necessary.
It wasn't.
Completely, like, reinvent and reimagine, because it's like, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not into I've not gotten into the print literature for a lot of the Star Wars, outside of the movies, but isn't there canon story that takes place after the original trilogy?
As far as I know, so like for example, the Mandalorian is considered canon in the Star Wars universe at this point, and
right. But I mean, like aren't there books written about Luke Skywalker going and restarting the Jedi Order? And
yes, and that was the thing. So all of those books, essentially, when Disney purchased Lucasfilms, they basically said none of that is canon now. So all of that established lore that has been basically written about since 78 or whatever, was just thrown out the window. And I thought that was too much of a middle finger to the fan base that has existed for 40 years at that point almost.
Yeah.
To just be like, yeah, we don't care about any of this stuff that you care about that's been written about. Now, I can understand
wonder-
if they wanted to do something different, maybe with the characters that had already been established in the writing. Sure, I get that. But to just be like, yeah, we don't care about any of that. We're just going to continue the story on and undo so much of what was done with Luke's character development and undo so much of what was done with Anakin's character development and just throw it all in the trash can.
I wonder if there was a legal reason for that, though. Like, because they own the rights to all of the Lucasfilm media, right? But does that include all the print media?
That I don't know, and that is a good question. I would have to do some research on that, but I do not know on that as far as if they bought all that stuff, was the writing literature, was that part of that purchase? Because
Right,
obviously those would have been copyrighted characters,
Yes.
but they could have had a licensing agreement with George Lucas to use those characters rather than it being owned by George Lucas. So that is a good question. But like I said, this could be a 5-hour discussion about the production. So I'm going to try to narrow it down. So the production budget for The Force Awakens is estimated between $450 and $500 million. So $530 million. So let's average that to $500 million. So now we're at $4.5 billion in cost. Rogue One was $200 million, so that's $4.7 billion. Last Jedi was another $200 to $300 billion. So we're going to round up to $5 billion. Solo was $275 to $300 million, and apparently they had some reshoots that had to be done that were incredibly expensive. So we're at $5.3 billion. The Rise of Skywalker, they had to do a bunch of reshoots with that, and I believe part of that was due to Leia, the character that plays Leia, Carrie Fisher. She passed away around that time. Yeah, so I think that was part of those costs because they had to do a lot of reshoots, and I believe there was a significant portion of the story that they had to redo because she was no longer alive. So that was estimated at another $500 to $600 million. So we're looking at almost $6 billion. I think we're right around $5.8 billion in costs with the acquisition plus the cost of production for all those movies.
Jeez.
So, anyway, there's also significant costs for The Mandalorian. I'm not going to go through every single line item of cost. The Mandalorian costs $15 million per episode. Book of Boba Fett, $15 million per episode. Obi-Wan Kenobi is reported to have been $90 million total. Andor estimates have put it that it had a enormous budget. Is that right? Wow. Some estimates put the costs between $650 million to over $1 billion for this TV series. Massive budget. Ahsoka, $100 million budget. Skeleton Crew reported budget for season 1 was $136 million. The Acolyte, which was canceled after one season, and rightly so, $230 million. So that puts the total at around another $1.9 billion. So they're $8 billion in costs, and that's not even including their animated series.
What animated series have they done?
Star Wars Rebels, Star Wars Resistance, The Clone Wars,
Wait, but no, because those didn't.
They did the last season, the Clone
The
Wars
last season
final
of Clone
season.
Wars.
What?
Yeah, I was gonna say the last season of
Yeah.
Clone Wars. But
The Bad Batch,
oh yeah, the Bad Batch,
Tales of the Jedi, Star
Tales of
Wars.
the Jedi. Those were some of those were really interesting.
Were
I
they?
enjoyed those. You should watch them.
Young Jedi Adventures, Star Wars Visions, and then there was a bunch of Lego Star Wars specials and stuff like that. So they estimate those probably to be another $500 million. So now we're at 8.5 ish.
I mean,
So yeah. So rolling all of this into
uh-huh.
one big number. Low ball, I would say we're probably looking at between $8 and $10 billion in cost between acquisition and production and all of the other stuff associated with, which I'd say it's probably closer to 10 because you have things like Disney World where they have the Star Wars universe. So they've got a bunch of costs
Right.
associated with that, and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
rides and stuff like that. So let's say for the sake of a number that they're $10 billion in at this point. Would you? Which at a certain point we're like, okay, it's $10 billion. They have to be doing it for a reason. But I want to know if your guess is. We're gonna do a tiered guess. So, do you think they're completely underwater and they're just doing everything they can to make the money back? Do you think they're getting close to break even? Do you think they've made a modest return? So let's say up to 1 times their investment. So like if they put in 10, they got 20 out of it. So on and so forth, or a great return, which would be, 2 plus times return on investment.
I mean, I feel like, especially with all the merchandising and everything and ticket sales for. I mean, I've heard that they're the whole like lightsabers things that they sell are exorbitantly expensive. If you go to the park to get one,
So,
there's a whole song and dance you get to go through on it and everything.
so
Like,
yeah.
I'm gonna guess they have made. Are we editing this out? Where the hell are you going? My gosh. Did you get that from Disney World? You can't hear me. What am I doing? Did you get that from Disney World?
I did. So we went to Disney World last year,
You
and
schmuck.
yeah, I'm contributing to the problem.
Which testicle did you give up for that?
So it was an expensive one, and that's the thing. Like I'll be the first to admit, I am not nearly nerdy enough to have been building a lightsaber for myself. And I mean, like this is they call it a dueling quality lightsaber.
Okay.
So what that means is like if you had one of the same quality, you could literally whack this thing as hard as you wanted, and it would not break. I saw somebody do like a production
I'll take
video,
that
like
bet.
where he takes this thing and he is just wailing on like a steel bar, and it does not break. I think the tip, just the tip, which I figured you would love that part. This tip, like little plastic piece, I don't know how well you can see it, but that piece, it does
it a
break
little
off
further.
at some point. And I mean, he was hitting it really hard when he was testing the durability of the thing. So I was pretty surprised. I was pretty surprised on how well the thing held up. But it was definitely an experience. I'll give it that. Now, whether or not like if having done that myself, I would say you have to be real into Star Wars to want to do that, because about 5 minutes in, I was like, yeah, this is, and I'm not trying to dog on nerd culture. I play video games. I love nerd stuff. I love sci-fi. I love reading books and all that stuff. I'm not dogging on it by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just one of those things, like, you got to be real into Star Wars and the lore and all that stuff to want to, like, build a lightsaber and have that experience, because it was expensive. I think it was $280. And this was like it was Anna's birthday present to me last year, and so, like, it was an experience, and I'll give it that. But it was just one of those things, like, as you're going through it, like, you don't just go in there and, like, oh yeah, I want to build whatever I want. No, like, you go in there and you have to pay for the ticket in advance, and you have to wait for your group, and they give you, like, this is what kind of pieces that you can use. They have, like, 4 different themes of styles of lightsabers that you can do. And then, they have, I think there's 6 different colors of the crystals, and they're interchangeable, so you can get different colors if you want them other times, all that stuff. So, like, you're getting an experience out of it, but there ain't no way that lightsaber right there costs $278 to make.
No, you pay for the experience.
Exactly. And so that's what I'm saying. So based on that, if you had to take a wild guess on what kind of return on investment they've had with purchasing Star Wars.
Honestly, it's not even a wild guess. I'm sure they have made multiples of their invested.
So you're saying a strong return on investment.
It's a very strong return on investment.
So
considering, like, the fan base,
yeah,
and the reception of a lot of the offerings they put out there for TV and film, like, some of their stuff on Disney Plus is really, really good.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like does kind of honor the the canon,
original
the
canon.
tone.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that.
Not all of it has. Look at you, Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, so based on what Disney has reported, which you got to take this with a grain of salt, this is what they've reported to investors. They believe that since they purchased Lucasfilms in 2012, as of the end of 2024's tax return filing, which is basically where they've got their finalized numbers, they have made a 2.9x return on investment with their Lucasfilm purchase.
So they've almost.
So if they put in $10 million, so if
2.9, it's almost 3.
So 100% means that they've doubled their money. So it's actually almost 4 times. I think it depends. Different people have different ways of telling you what their return on investment is, because you don't want to get back the money you invested. That's part of the cost. So it would be 2.9 plus the 1% that they originally invested. So they have $10 million in it, and they have gotten
10 billion.
Yeah, sorry, $10 billion in it, and they have gotten $39 billion out based on this. Interestingly enough, though, this is a fun little factoid. Since the purchase of Marvel, they've actually gotten a 3.3 times return on investment.
So they've gotten a better return on ROI on Marvel than they did on Star Wars, huh?
Yeah.
But they've had Marvel for longer.
Some of it. So this was something that I did not know. So, and I don't know if you knew this.
Because they still don't own Spider-Man.
Right. So there's certain aspects of Marvel that were sold off at the end of the 90s to different production studios. So like
Marvel was trying to stay afloat.
Yeah, Marvel's trying to stay afloat. The comic book model has not been doing good for a while, so they were desperate, but they had a huge fan base. So X-Men went to 20th Century Fox. Spider-Man went to Sony.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I think the Fantastic Four also went to Sony.
Are you sure? I thought it was Fox.
No, I don't think so. But I believe the most recent Fantastic Four was after the contract had expired with whoever owned it. And Disney was able to buy it back because they'd had flop after flop after flop as far as the Fantastic Four was considered. I could be wrong on that, but that's... I could have sworn that the Fantastic Four was originally sold to Sony Pictures.
No. In 2005, it was done by Fox.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. There was one in 1994, unreleased.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. I think this is like one of those, like...
Hidden gems?
It's going to be really bad. Yeah, it's going to be like hidden gem.
Yeah. Being generous with the word gem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was Fox, because Fox released that original one with... funny enough, with Chris Evans and one of my favorites, Jessica Alba.
Yep. Which I really liked the Fantastic Four movie, and even the second one, The Rise of the Silver Surfer. I thought that one was pretty good.
No, it was good. I feel like they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
On those. Even though, well, I don't know. We'd have to do a flop or not on it. Wait,
yeah.
Here it says, no, actually it did well. It says budget was, at least the first one, was anywhere between 87 to 100 million, and at box office at 333. So
okay, so it did pretty well.
Good.
Yeah, they definitely made their money back on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I think the second one didn't do as well.
Yeah, I don't think it did. And I don't know why. I felt like the Silver Surfer was kind of just very deadpan as I'm thinking about it, and I honestly don't remember much about the second film. I remember quite a bit about the first one, but
this one says the film had slightly improved critical reception but lower financial gross.
Huh.
So
the critics liked it more, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
They budgeted 120 to 130 million on it, and they only made 301 million.
Oh, okay.
Who was the Silver Surfer in this movie? Here we go. Lawrence Fishburne did the voice.
Seriously? Huh. So he was all CGI?
Well, Doug Jones, a guy named Doug Jones, apparently did the physical of it. I'm sure it was motion cap.
Oh, I see.
Or something like that.
Yeah. It was a weird time in the early, like the mid 2000s when that came out.
Yeah. That was... When did this come out? 2007, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's our flop or not segment for this week. I know that was a little bit more involved than we normally do, but I thought we could delve into a little bit more than just did a movie do well or not. You know, look at a company's financial success for a purchase. So that brings us to our to our next segment. Ricky, do you want to tell everybody what we're going to be talking about next? You said you had a new idea that you wanted to dive into. Did I imagine that? It's possible that I imagined that.
I think you imagined that. I'm trying to remember what. We'll save it for next week.
Okay. All right. We'll save that for next week then. Um, are we going to be going deep this week? Do you have any thoughts for mental health? I know this is kind of a week where a lot of people are focused on family and friends and you know.
So I do want to say I was thinking about we talked about men's mental health and like things that are really crucial for men in particular. And I think it pairs nicely with kind of what you were talking about. We were talking about earlier when we were talking about side hustle and whatnot
Oh yeah.
is purpose. I think purpose is something that a lot of people don't consider often to be really important, but for men in particular, I think that purpose is pretty paramount. Something
Yeah.
that we can work towards.
Yeah.
Gives us drive in our lives, and sometimes a side hustle gives purpose because like you want to create financial independence for yourself, or you have a passion that you're exploring. Um, Purpose is what drives, men to get up early and go to the gym to stay healthy for their kids and their family, or to stay up late grinding away to make sure that we have money to meet all the bills that so our kids can and our families can have nice things. Um, Men without purpose, it's kind of like the old saying that if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's purpose is a key element to men's mental health when we are focused on something productive and something good, something that brings value, not just to our lives, but to the people we care about. I think we are much better off mentally. And for a lot of guys, that is work, that is your vocation, it's your career that gives you purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know I've fallen into that myself. And at one point, I lost my job that I had built my purpose around, and that was pretty hard because I had to, in a way, reinvent myself. Um, and so I believe purpose is very important. I think it's also important to be cautious about what you build your purpose to be,
Mm-hmm.
because it needs to be something that is based on your principles, which is another thing that you have to kind of self-reflect and figure out. Like, what are the principles that I'm going to define how I act, react, how I plan, how I think, um, and then find purpose that aligns with that. And then it won't matter what you do for a job, you will always find that purpose in wherever you are. Um, so that's kind of my deep thought for this week. If you're starting a side hustle, definitely, think about tailoring it towards, something that you feel like is a good purpose, but make sure you have that purpose grounded in something that is not just the side hustle or not just your job, because those, obviously, like we were saying earlier, within a year and a half, a lot of businesses fail. So
Mm-hmm.
if you decide your purpose is all wrapped up in this side hustle and it fails after a year and a half, then what happens? Who are you anymore? And instead of having to wrestle with that question, do the work beforehand to set your principles if you haven't already, and say, well, this side hustle aligns with my principles, but if it doesn't pan out, then I still have my principles, I still have my purpose. I
Yeah.
just need to seek another avenue. And I think people get lost when they put their purpose too heavily into something that is temporary and easy to lose. And it's okay for those things, for your, for purpose and your principles to evolve, but I think it is not wise to put it into something that can be yanked away arbitrarily.
That's
So,
definitely an awesome thought. I completely agree with that. I think there's a lot of wisdom to that. And before I add to anything that Mr. Dick just said, I am curious. I kind of want to put you on the spot a little bit because it's been a little over 2 years since you lost that job, correct?
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what my question is, knowing what you know now and how your life has changed since you lost, your job, essentially, because from what everything you've told me in the past, that was kind of the way that you wanted your life to go. If is
Right.
that a fair assessment?
Yeah. No, I had envisioned myself staying in that vocation. We'll just say it was an education without spilling too much right now.
Yeah.
But it was an education. And I very firmly, since I was in college, um, saw myself like as, hey, this is going to be me. This is going to be me. And that was inherently the problem that ended up I had to come to terms with, because I wrapped myself up in that instead of that job fulfilling part of the principles I had set.
Hmm.
The job was the principle. The job was the identity. So, you know, I, it's weird. Like, I felt like I lost myself
Yeah.
to an extent when I lost my job, and I don't think that. I mean, it's a good thing to put a lot of your effort, time, energy into something, um, but I think it's dangerous to put your identity into it to an extent, because like it could go away, and then who are you? And that can lead to a spiral, and
Hmm.
a lot of people struggle with recovering from that kind of event. But sorry, finish your question.
Yeah, no. That kind of talks about it a little bit, but the specific question that I did want to ask is, now that you have seen and had a little over 2 years to process what happened, your family has obviously adapted, and you've moved back to your home area, and you're closer to parents and friends and things like
My
that.
family, yeah.
Yeah. So knowing what you know now, and having that hindsight to review back on how things happened, are you still do you still feel any level of regret that you poured, what was it, about 15 years
Yeah, give or
of
take.
your life into a vocation that basically out of nowhere just stopped and turned into, what have I been doing with my life? To being in a completely different field of work, in a completely different area of the country, all that stuff. Like, do you still feel any level of, I wish I could go back, or is it, I'm happy where things are, and I've modified my principles and my passions, and this is what I'm working towards now, and I feel so much more fulfilled now, even though I'm not in that career path that I thought I was going to be in for my entire life.
Hmm.
That was your retirement plan, so to speak.
Right. So I would say, it's complex. Yes, I mean, you're always going to have things that you regret, um, but I don't regret the time and the experiences. Um, and when it's fresh, it's hard to look back and think positively. And of course, now more and more as we get further and further away from the event, like I'm able to look back more positively. But even from the very beginning when I was let go, I would say I didn't regret the time because a lot of that time was not the job was people, and so I invested a lot of my time in the people,
Mm-hmm.
the students, the kids, and that still pays dividends. Like
Yeah.
there's an investment there that I made that I will be collecting dividends on for decades. So I don't regret that. Um, my only regret is letting my personal identity get so wrapped up in it that when it inevitably, which I think is still pretty common if you ask me in that field, when I lost that job, I had a little bit of a crisis of identity just because of how I had put myself into it,
Yeah.
which could have been avoided had I not approached it the way I approached it. And I wouldn't, obviously I'm doing things different now, and it's hard to say that, I regret um, the choices that I made because it's led me to where I am now. And as someone who likes to be self-reflective and tries to be self-aware, um, I try and take what I can that's positive from my experiences, learn from what's negative, and move forward to become better, to become more well-rounded. And I think that's probably the best that I can get out of it. Um, and that's kind of what I'm planning on doing. So
Good. Well, for me personally, I'm super glad that that terrible thing happened to you, because it meant you got closer to your
yeah,
home and you're
it's
closer to
true.
your friends, which, to dive more a little bit into the more personal aspect of it. um if you are watching this and you don't know, Dick and I have been pretty good friends for about 20 years now.
Yeah,
We met in
pretty close.
yeah, we met in college,
Yeah.
and you know, I've always called him Ricky because that was his name for me. But um, we met and just kind of hit it off, and got along real well. And he was one of my groomsmen when I got married, and I unfortunately was unable to make it to his wedding,
Yeah.
because of my job at the time, which, kind of diving into tying your career to your purpose.
Oh my
When,
gosh.
especially around that time, I was working in taxes, and just, I felt like I was killing myself for something that I really
Hmm.
just didn't I didn't get any real fulfillment out of, and you're kind of talking
Hmm.
about, doing something that goes along with your values and your principles, and having something that you value yourself, is something that I think does tie in really well with what you're talking about there. And what I was doing, I just felt like I was not providing any value that I cared about. And unfortunately, I was doing it for, I mean, I was making enough to make ends meet, but I wasn't making a killing by any stretch of the imagination. And so it did not put a lot of extra shekels in the bank, so to speak, for me to be able to afford to go to, things that I wanted to go to. And so, that was when I started kind of shifting my mindset around what, I viewed as valuable in my life, and started shifting what I wanted to focus on from a work perspective. And that's led me to, the decisions that I've made in the past few, 3-4 years, where I started a business with my wife, and we have a accounting and consulting business that we do pretty well off of, and it allows us to be directly involved with our clients and provide value to them. And that's one of the biggest things that I love about the way that my career has evolved, because there was a long time where I just kind of felt like I was drudging along and didn't feel any value, even though I was employed in the career path that I'd chosen, and had been for a pretty consistently long time. I mean, I'd been working in accounting before I started this business for 13 years at that point, I think. And, to go from that to just feeling like, hey, this is not what I'm looking for, but how can I turn this skill set into something that I can help people? Because that's something that I really do enjoy doing is helping people solve their problems and figure out better ways to do things, and taking something off your plate that, is driving you up a wall because you're frustrated, and it's, yeah, hey, I've got a small business that I mow lawns. I don't want to be focused on doing my accounting work. Good. I'll take that off your plate and you mow my lawn. We're good, and let's exchange value that way. And so it's been, it's definitely been a eye-opening experience for me as well to disassociate my career path with what I'm doing with my life. And kind of along the lines with what you're talking about, to not feel like that the job that I have is what I have to have, or is a requirement for me to be able to provide my values and principles to myself and to others. So right. I definitely understand what you're saying. So, but yeah, no, I'm so glad that, and that's the thing. I hate that happened to you, because I remember when you told me what happened. It was one of those things where, knowing the circumstances around it, especially, it was just incredibly frustrating for me as an outsider looking in perspective, to know that somebody that I know should have known better than to treat you that way, because educators are so important. And they're not treated well at all. So to see something like that happen, and just, at the timing that it did, with no warning in advance, and obviously, right, from a job perspective, any job can disappear with no warning. But when it's something that should have given you warning and was past that point of not giving you warning, it just was, it just kills me to see that. But, knowing what I know now, yeah, I'm glad you got screwed over.
Thanks.
Because I'm glad you're in a better spot now. Because, I mean, and you can, if I'm wrong, let me know. But I, the last few conversations that we've had, even with the ones that we've had on here, you seem like a weight has been lifted off of your shoulders, at least to some extent, compared to where you were at even when you were in that job. Because I know there's a lot of aspects to that as an educator that take a lot out of you. And if you're not getting what you value put back into you, then that's where those things are going to start hurting and weighing on you, and it's going to take too much and eventually get unsustainable. So
yeah, and that was kind of the reality too, at the point that, like, I was giving, and I was giving so much that, I was not getting, as an educator and as an administrator of educators, like, you got to remember and honor that those people are putting so much of themselves into it, that you owe it to them to support, to uplift, and to help, like, pour back into them, not continuously take from them as well. And that's, I think, one of the struggles that we have, is that, people who get into that, and it doesn't always have to be just education. It's just the example because it's my anecdote. But people who get into those kinds of lines of work that are very um, service driven, especially, they have high burnout because in my opinion, it's administrators, leaders don't invest back into those people to help them be, replenished and keep them focused. Like you, you can't go at 100 miles an hour forever. For
Listen,
not even for very
there's a
long.
reason it's called a circle
So,
jerk.
yeah,
Everybody gets a little bit out of it.
exactly. But when you're doing the Flying Dutchman all by yourself,
Exactly. Yeah, you just look
that's the problem.
weird.
A little bit. Well, on that high note,
On that note, yeah. Oh man. Well, that's definitely a good. You did a good job of going deep, Dick. So yeah. That's the show for you this week.
hey, thanks for joining us. If you made it this far,
Yeah.
we really appreciate you.
Good for
sticking
you.
around.
Yeah, this is definitely one of our longer episodes. We
It
dived
certainly is.
deep into the finances of Star Wars and talked a
We
little
sure
bit about
did.
Rocket Man and then got some good food for thought. So just to give everybody a little bit of a preview for things to come, we have started looking into bringing on some guests and doing some interviews. So we have a couple guest stars that I think we'll be bringing on in the next few episodes, hopefully, and
Exciting.
maybe get to dive into a few of these topics that we've been talking about a little bit, and get somebody who has a little bit more direct and personal experience than I do. So we'll keep y'all posted on that and how that develops. And yeah, that's the episode for the week. So Ricky, do you, Mr. Dick, do you want to say any final words?
Stay hard, guys.
Stay hard. Words to live by. Do hard things while you're hard. Yeah. So everybody have a good Thanksgiving, and we'll talk at you next week.
Awkward.